The SRAM Guide RE brakes are what my bike was equipped with when I bought it new back in 2021. Since then, the only maintenance I've had to do is a bleed on the rear and rear pads. You see, I've started to wonder, are these brakes any good? Should I replace them? And should I switch to Shimano? First, let's take a deep dive into the specs of these brakes. Just a quick interruption. I wanted to sit down for a second and say, if you're new to the channel, thanks for joining us. My name's Matt. And if you're already a subscriber, you rock. Okay, that's all. So back to the desk moving montage. Okay, so here are the official SRAM specs of the Guide RE. Application, mountain biking. Brake type, hydraulic. Color, gloss black. Let's move on. Okay, now we're getting some specs that make sense. Okay, lever pivot, bushing, weight, 415 grams, not a big deal. Mountain biking, they are direct mount. Here is the thing that makes them the Guide RE, whatever. It's the R. And that is that you have adjustable reach on the levers. Now the Guide T's also had this reach adjustment, but you would have to use a tool, like a hex tool or something like that on the lever. The Guide R's, it's tool free. It's just a hand lever. A tool-free adjustment on the lever. Now there is no contact adjustment, anything like that. So now here's the biggest downside to SRAM brakes that most people have, and that is the type of oil they use. They use a .51, whatever. It's a really corrosive oil. You get it on anything, it's gonna eat the paint away. You have to be really good about cleaning stuff off. It's just a pain in the butt. And also they're not the easiest brakes to bleed. So as far as like doing all your work at home, there's a little bit more involved with SRAM than there is with Shimano. Seeing as how Shimano just has that little cup thing that you put on there, and you just squeeze the lever a few times and put the plunger back in, and you're done. I mean, it's simple as that. SRAM's a little bit different. Okay, so we've gone over what the R stands for in the Guide REs. Now the E, evidently these are for E mountain bikes. They're a little stronger and they have a little bit less brake fade after heat than the regular Guide R's. So, you know, they're made for slowing down heavier bikes. As far as the calipers go, these brakes share the same design as the Code downhill brakes, which is a pretty powerful 4-piston brake caliper. Okay, now that's pretty much it for the specs. It's not a lot for brakes. And honestly, none of those really mean anything to me. What really matters to me and why I like SRAM is the modulation. Something Shimano doesn't offer much of and SRAM has plentiful of. Is that right? Has plentiful of? You see, brake modulation is the feel, I guess. With Shimano, it's either nothing or all. Whereas SRAM, you have modulation, so you have more feel, so you can kind of like find that sweet spot, squeeze a little tighter if needed to get more brake power. Now these brakes are running on the 200mm rotors for maximum stopping power. I feel with a smaller rotor, you're gonna get too much brake fade after heat and lose a lot of stopping power on the downhill trails. Okay, with all that being said, let's take a deeper look at these brakes. Okay, so let's start with the levers. For the most part, the feel of these things is great. Like I said, there is modulation, which is that in-between area. There's no spot at the bottom that feels like you're completely compressed. It just, you can squeeze tighter to get a little bit more power. I like that. And right here is the dial that you can turn to adjust the reach, how far your lever is from your bars. Now, if you have good brakes with good modulation and that are equipped on the right bike, or I guess I should say the right brakes equipped to your bike, the only adjustment I would need would be this reach adjustment. If there's good modulation, the other adjustment's right there in your finger. Now, another cool thing about these levers is they are ambidextrous, which means you can switch sides if you wanted for whatever reason. The benefit to that is it's easier to find parts because they're the same. Okay, let's go down to the calipers. One of the things I really like about these calipers is how easy it is to take the pads out, how secure they are when they're in. So when it comes to switching pads, it's a breeze. Anybody can do it. And then the little Torx screw you'll see here, that is your bleed port. So if you do need to bleed these, you've got a bleed port on your caliper, and you also have a bleed port on the lever. You have to use both. It's tricky. Maybe a bleed is in the future, just for the sake of it. And like I said before, I'm running the 200mm rotors with a bike this size. I mean, so we've gone over the specs, we've gone over the lever, the caliper, and you all know how I feel about them now. Now, full disclosure, I do have another bike that has Shimano brakes on it, so I know the feel of both. Albeit they're not the best Shimano brakes, but I feel we're looking at kind of two similar entry-level brakes here, even though these are 4-piston and the Shimano are 2-piston. But the 2-piston brakes are on a trail bike, which is much smaller and lighter than this one, so I feel like they kind of equal out, and I can say, in my opinion, I like the SRAM brakes better. And my reason for that is feel and modulation. Okay, those are my thoughts and opinions on these brakes, and no, I will not be switching to Shimano on my Capra. As far as like standard trail riding goes, a lot of pedaling, kind of up and down stuff, little jibby trails, Shimano brakes on a light bike, fantastic. But for a long travel downhill bike, feel is important. And for that, I would say go SRAM. But that's my opinion. I'm no special person. I'm like between beginner, intermediate rider. You all know that. So let's head to the local bike shop, talk to some pro mechanics and see what their opinion is between the two.
I'm Brian Edwards. I'm the owner of Just Ride Bikes and Fitness, formerly Larry's Cycle Shop in Kingsport, Tennessee. I'm the owner-operator, so I'm here day in, day out, 6 days a week. I do wrench some on the bikes. We do some of the higher-end stuff as far as the more meticulous, detailed work.
SRAM are definitely a lot harder to bleed and work on. I think Shimano's definitely got the easier bleed system, having a bleed valve.
Shimano's better to bleed than SRAM. No ifs, ands, or buts there.
Which brakes do you like to ride with?
That is a tough choice, but I would say probably, as of now, SRAM. I feel like they probably have a little bit more stopping power. Surprisingly, modulation does feel good. They don't completely lock up like Shimano does, so that's also a good thing.
Overall, who makes a better brake? Who makes a better product?
I would say SRAM.
I have SRAM guides. I love them. You just have to remember to bleed them. I have probably bled them. I've had them since 21 or 2. I've probably only bled them once. The guides that I have on there now were replaced probably about a year and a half ago. There was a kind of a defect or something with them, and SRAM had absolutely no problem replacing them. I got them replaced, no cost to me.
If you're running Shimano's, you're either skidding or squealing.
I would probably believe that.
Okay, so after all that, what I've concluded is SRAM makes better brakes, until I'm convinced otherwise. Okay, if you've made it around to the end of this video, thank you so much for sticking around and hanging out. And it'd be awesome if you subscribe if you haven't yet, so that way, we can hang out more. Okay, bye.